And we're live. You can't see. I'm like, I got my tongue out, Jeff. You just can't see it.
Hey, Jeff McKinney.
Hey, Jeff M. Make sure we got all kinds of stuff we need to have up and running tonight. Make sure I got it all. All right.
How did I get dog hair on my cheese plate, Peter?
Why? How come pita's not on your cheese plate? Sounds like a well-rounded.
All right. You guys ready to go?
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Jeff's thinking about it.
I can't pour and talk at the same time. Sure, I'm ready.
All right, let's do this.
This week's episode is partially sponsored by Wine Still Sold Out. Find out how to save $5 on your order a little later on the show. Check out WTSO.com/WLD.
Hi, this is Tom Lutz, the founder and inventor of Rapport. You are listening to the We Like Drinking podcast, where you never drink alone.
At the sound of the tone, the official We Like Drinking time will be 5 o'clock. Commence consumption.
This week on episode 222 of the We Like Drinking podcast, we'll be discussing the number 25, 5 Seconds of Love, and all our beer is filled with red dye number 5. So crack open your beers, uncork that wine, and let's get drinking!
Drinking!
It's like Count Chocula or Count, who's the Count from Sesame Street's on our show. I wrote our intro this week.
It's Count Von Count. Yeah, that intro was sweet. That intro made me want to like half-heartedly rock out.
It's cool that the only people listening that get that are on the panel.
Well, I'll be laughing in my car on Friday.
Right.
Hey, me. Enjoy the commute. Drive safe.
So cheers, my podcast drinking friends, and welcome to Happy Hour 222 of the only two-time award-winning topical beer and wine education podcast focusing on red and fun.
It's the triple deuce.
You heard it here, folks. We're all recording from our bathrooms tonight. You are so if you're listening and you are already if by now you've realized that you are listening to Podcast Gold, be sure to get yourself subscribed to the show so you never miss an episode. Visit welikedrinking.com/subscribe to take your first step down the WLD path of awesome sauce. Yeah, man. You should go subscribe.
Yeah. What's wrong with you people?
Wait a minute. I do. So
good job, John. You followed the rules. All right. So you've heard us all talking, but let's find out who we are and what we're drinking. We're joined by our usual panel members. We have our beer brewer, John Ruyak.
Yeah, I used to blog about beer.
Yeah.
But I do brew it. I did today. Did a piney double IPA today.
Nice. We've got our wine blogger, Jeff Solomon.
Hey, second's the best.
And I am your host, Jeff Eccles. This week is our tasting episode, our monthly tasting episode, the month of April. And this month we are tasting red ales, ambers, Irish reds, whatever you like to call it. The brews come red like the blood of our enemies and taste just as delicious. I'm excited about getting this.
What the hell's going on? This is not the we're cannibals now. What's happening?
You're never quite sure. So yeah, this is an interesting one. We put up quite a foursome of beers this week to choose from. Mexican lagers did a good had a good showing in last month's Patreon lineup, so we put that in there. We put wheat beer in there. We put it in there like 8 times. I don't think in 8 times of wheat beers being in the poll has it ever received a vote. And we put macro lagers in there just to see what people would do. Big old donut for that too. And we put in the red ale. So it came down to the wire as always. A 1 vote victory for red ale. So sorry, Mexican craft lager. You're on the other side of the wall tonight.
Yeah.
Were you guys excited about the red ales? I know John was really excited.
Well, yeah, I know I'm up in describing this particular style here in a few minutes, so I'll give you my thoughts on it.
All right. Jeff, were you pretty excited about this one, or?
I like red ales.
Yeah.
I like, anytime I see like a red IPA on tap, I always like to go for something like that. And so, I'm looking forward for this one, kind of scaling back and doing the lower octane red ales, because I want to try to be as true to style as possible. But this should be fun.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get into it, let's test our brain knowledge a little bit with a little bit we like to call wine, beer, or pop culture reference. So this is where this week I'm going to give these guys a term, and they're going to tell me if it's a wine term, a beer term, or some kind of pop culture reference. The term this week is Oberon. So is Oberon a wine, a beer, or a pop culture reference? Nobody's got the solid look of knowledge on their face, so I'm going to start with Solomon.
Can you please spell that?
Oberyn. Oberon.
Okay. If I was merely restricted to wine or beer, I think I'd take like an educated guess here, and I would go with something in the beer realm, because it just sounds very like it sounds very Nordic. And I think that if I was living like in an area like that, I'd be much more into beers, and actually beers would be more available than wines, at least historically. But then that brings me to my Achilles heel when it comes to pop culture references is Game of Thrones. And even though I don't watch Game of Thrones, it's interesting that, I see memes about Game of Thrones all the time. So I'm like tangentially aware of stuff like that. And I remember like seeing a meme today where it's like 2-week countdown for everybody that doesn't watch Game of Thrones to tell you that they don't watch Game of Thrones. And I think this might be one of those things. Like Oberon must be some sort of like wacky Game of Thrones reference. I'm going for the Hail Mary. I'm going for the haymaker here. Oberon is a pop culture reference regarding Game of Thrones or some other dorky thing that grown adults should not be watching.
Okay. Way too
maybe it's like a shitty like anime movie. If you're like way into anime, like what's wrong with you?
John Ruyak.
Well, Oberon is a planet in the Star Wars trilogy, but that's spelled differently. I think that's Oberon, not Oberyn.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were talking about Alderaan.
I think that's Alderaan.
No, maybe.
Don't you remember when Dark Helmet laid his Schwartz down and that planet exploded?
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
So
goodbye, Rails.
Yeah, Oberon. But I'm I'm gonna go with Solomon's original line of thinking. This has a bit of a Northern Germanic, Scandinavian type of sound to it, so I'm gonna think it's some sort of beer reference.
Some sort of Northern German beer reference, and Solomon's going Game of Thrones, kicking on the meme ride. One of you is correct this week. And God damn it, it's Jeff Solomon.
Oh, yes! I knew you were a dork. I knew you had bad taste.
It is a pop culture reference. And Oberyn Nymeros Martell, aka the Red Viper, is the Prince of Dorne in Game of Thrones. And in season 4, I think it was, he suffered possibly the most gruesome and disturbing death I have ever witnessed in a television series. So, did you get it though? The Red Viper, you like that? So very well done, Jeff Solomon. You nailed Oberyn.
Can't you just all envision Jeff Eccles at Comic-Con like, excuse me, sir, in season 5, when the Red Viper died, I just didn't think it was very realistic. So can you can you justify what was happening there, sir? Do you remember the titles of the episodes? Are you one of those guys?
No. I counted only 15 teeth that he lost with that massive punch. So very well done, Jeff. You took me back by getting that one. So good job. But now it's time for a word from our sponsor.
You know, in all my years of making blogs, videos, and podcasts about wine, I get asked fairly often about how I got to know so much about the subject. Truth is, the answer is really simple. I drink a lot of wine. Over the years, whenever someone would bring up a new grape variety or wine region, I would ride my skateboard over to that big chain grocery store to pick up a bottle and learn about it. Learn. The problem with those big stores is that all their cheap wine stinks, and all their good wine is too darn expensive. And that's where Wines Till Sold Out comes into play. WTSO offers up killer wines at huge discounts. Check out these sweet deals from just this past week. A Willamette Valley Pinot Noir, 59% off. A Brunello di Montalcino, 64% off. A Premier Cru White Burgundy, 62% off. Are you thirsty now? Do you want to learn more about wine? What are you waiting for? Get started at WTSO.com/WLD. And don't forget to use the promo code WLD2019 at checkout for even more savings. Wines Till Sold Out. Hey, you could learn something.
Awesome. Nice job, Jeff. I like that one.
Is that like the Bill Cosby show? So it's like, if you don't pay, if you're not careful, you might learn something by the end of the show.
I just got a call from corporate. Never use that guy's name within 10 seconds of an ad. Thank you.
Especially one that has to do with drinks. Is anybody getting sleepy?
Oh God.
You went there, John.
Oh jeez.
All right, so red ales, amber ales, Irish reds. Let us be clear though, we're not talking about red beer. Red beers are a completely different thing.
Is that the thing with like Clamato and okay?
Yeah, with a macro lager. And like tomato juice or Clamato or something.
Wow, that just sent a shiver up my spine. Why'd you do that?
I guess I better break out the old skateboard and go back to the grocery store. Shit.
So red ales, John. What do you got to tell us about these things?
Yeah. Well,
all right. Thanks, John. Let's get into the tasting.
They're a moneymaker for us. when I brew the red ale, first of all, I put a lot of effort into it, but it is one of the simpler ales that we brew because it only boils for an hour. So that's always nice to get out of work a half hour earlier than every other day.
So I guess let me ask a question. Let's start off really high level. Between a red ale, an amber ale, and an Irish red, which are the three most common ones I can think of, what differences are there between these styles?
Amber, I don't know where, when I went to Total Wines, today, and I'm looking in the red section because I didn't want to, always bring home a lizard tail beer. Let's do, let's be a little original. Let's go out and find some other stuff. Well, excuse me. And our red ale is quite popular in both tap rooms, in the original tap room and the one, a little farther out of town. It's one of the simpler beers we brew, but as far as, red ale really is an Irish iteration of English, just a regular bitter, just a regular bitter, a cask bitter, a pale ale. It's, the difference being that back in 1710 in Kilkenny, Ireland, they added some roasted barley. So with the characteristics of red ale are that it's highly attenuated. So you're not going to, it's pretty dry. You're not going to have a lot of residual sweetness as far as tackiness goes on your palate. You will get some caramel notes, but caramel as a flavor, not a sweetening type of flavor. And people that listen to the podcast know the difference between these things. So you're not going to get a lot of malt aroma. You're not going to get a lot of hop aroma. It's a really simple beer. It's supposed to be clean. There's not a lot of esters. We use a really clean yeast. We use actually an American yeast. And it just, it ferments down to 0.008 final gravity. And well, and a lot of people use the roasted barley in it, which is not a fermentable sugar, but what it does is it provides the off-white head on the beer, much like roasted barley does for stouts, dry Irish stouts. So that gives you a little bit of the dryness and astringency, but also promotes that off, just like an odd color head to the beer or off color head relative to the body of the beer itself. So that's how that is accomplished. And that's roasted barley. So that's, and it's very simple hops. We use a single charge in the very beginning of the boil of East Kent Goldings. And that's probably the most prominent use of a hop in red ales, where a lot of people might use some Challenger or maybe some Fuggles. What Fuggles tends to be a little bit spicier, and probably wouldn't really go with the cleaner flavors that you want in a red ale. Really, what I was really doing some research and how to best describe it. I just, I'm just going off the top of my head and what we do and getting a little bit of history on it. But like I said, so we mash it at a relatively low temperature. It's going to provide a lot of fermentable sugars for the beer. So the yeast is going to ferment most of those sugars and not leave a lot behind. You don't want a lot of hop or aroma or flavor, just enough bitterness to carry the beer and preserve it. It's an easy drinker. It's lower alcohols, generally between 5 and 6% in the American craft beer scene. So Jeff, that's really about it. I mean, it's how do I say? I mean, it's an entry level craft beer, much like amber, and amber is a completely different style. I don't know where, and a lot of literature will say red amber ales. No, there's red ale, there's amber ale. There's difference in the colors. Amber's a little closer to brown. Amber's got a little bit more caramel flavor. Amber's got a little bit more sweetness. But generally, American ambers also carry a lot more hop aroma and flavor than an Irish red. How's that?
So essentially, you're telling me that a red ale is red.
It's a dry, easy drinking beer that happens to be red. I mean, that's really that's it in a nutshell.
Okay.
And so typically when we see something labeled as a red ale, that's going to be truer to this Irish red style.
It should be. I think so. Yes. And in my estimation, yeah.
And we might envision, but you're a very like traditional brewer. I mean, aside from the whole like strawberry and pumpkin bullshit that you do sometimes, like
we never do pumpkin beer at Lizard Tail. Thank God. I might quit.
But could you envision that there is kind of like a people crossing the streams, so to speak, where like you might get like a brewery in California who is doing like a red ale that is much more hoppy, and maybe they're even using some of those caramel malts that you might reserve for an amber. So what I'm hearing is roasted malts for red, so R roasted red, and then amber caramel, because the AC Slater. That's how you remember.
Our Irish red has only 3 malts. It's got a pale ale malt base. It's got an L77 for color and a little bit of additional color with the roasted barley. So it's for a 90-gallon batch. It's 140 pounds of pale ale malt, 10 pounds of the L77, and 3 pounds of roasted barley. So 2.5% of the mash bill is roasted barley. 8% of it is the L77. So it's, that is a caramel malt. It's not it is a crystal malt. It's a crystal malt. So there's a difference between caramel malts and crystal malts, the way they're malted and the way they're kilned. And what happens is with crystal malts, you can taste it. It's like this glassiness that you get on the palate. Whereas caramel malts don't do the same thing. It's a little bit more rounded flavor, and it provides the same color as a crystal malt does, but just the way that they're kilned is a little bit different. So
I would have loved tonight to do a red versus amber like tasting. I think that would have been
because I have to say, I mean, as a general style, red is probably my least favorite. So I wasn't real excited about it. But like I said, it's a big moneymaker for us. We sell a ton of it.
And you see it in well over 50% of the brewers out there that I see have a red ale on tap.
It's like a blonde or an amber, it's an entry-level craft beer. And there's people that come in and they, if there's something wrong with the red, and there's a little bit something wrong with the red at work because I didn't brew the last batch. Somebody else did because I was on vacation.
Humble brag.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry. The owner forgot how to brew his own beer. So anyway, love you, Dan. You got to remember to put in all the ingredients. Anyway, so yeah, I like every day, pay real close attention to what's going on. So it's not like I don't pay attention when I'm brewing the red, because man, if something's wrong, boy, there's a boatload of people like knock on the door of the brewer like, what's up? What's wrong with the red?
All right.
So okay, I've got something else. Ned, tell me about the Flanders red.
So that's a different deal. That's a sour beer from Belgium, and it's not a red. And have we done a Flanders red as a beer tasting? No, we've talked about
sours, but
yeah. And it's a soured beer. And there's they reuse wooden fermenters, and there's some residual lactic fermentation in those beers from Belgium. And boy, they're delicious.
They sure are, but you don't want to think about the process. There's a reason why they're called Flemish.
Anyway, they filter that out.
All right. So let's get into these. Solomon, you want to start off?
Yeah, I am drinking. Well, I got a couple things here. Currently, I have got a big old bomber of the Strike Brewing Company out of San Jose, California. This is their Colossus of Clout Irish style red ale. It's in at 6.5%.
That's a little high.
Yeah, and as I look at the color,
damn.
Looks pretty robust to me. It looks pretty brown.
I was gonna say,
and I don't know if there's a date on the bottle, but I'll check that later. On the nose, super roasty and toasty and a little bit sweet, like malty sweet on the nose, and on the palate here. Yeah, this is definitely it's interesting because you talk about it being like an entry level craft beer, and it reminds me quite a bit about when I first really started getting into drinking beer in my much younger days. I was really into Newcastle Brown Ale. And I'm being reminded a little bit of that in this red ale, that there is this malty sweetness. It is roasty. It is finishing clean and dry, and it's really just pleasant and refreshing and #smooth. I'm liking this quite a bit. A little bit later, if I have time, I'm also going to get into, and I've had this plenty of times, the Karl Strauss Brewing Company out of San Diego, their Red Trolley Ale. I'll get into that one a little bit later, but yeah, I'm liking Strike. You're seeing a lot of neat stuff from them, and they do also have some collaborations with Santa Cruz skateboards. So you see like some classic like Santa Cruz logos on some of their beers too. So very cool.
Awesome. So I was down at a local brewery here in town called Brass Brewing. I was watching a little bit of the NCAA tourney on Saturday night and looked on their menu, and lo and behold, I saw the Royal Irish Red, and I was like, well, I'll just take care of this right now. And I gave it a taste, and it was great. So came home with the crowler of it, 5.2 on the ABV there, John. And now look, this color, like if you can see this, much lighter than what Solomon was holding up there. So really but it's like hella red, like definitely number 5 on the red food coloring scale. As you were saying though, I mean, I get a little bit of maltiness on the nose, but that's about it. There's not a whole lot of aromas there, as you were speaking to, John. And on the palate, I get a little bit, just a touch, like you were saying, of that caramel, almost like a woodsy kind of note.
That's fun.
Not very. There's not a whole lot of bubbles to it. There's not a lot of bubbles in there, and just like you were saying, hella easy to drink. Like this is gulpable.
Yeah.
How about you, John? What are you drinking?
So, I got one of the tried and true locals. It's Tractor's Farmer Tan Red Ale, and you can see that the color on this is, I would say, is more amber than reddish, and it's one of the more well-known local red ales. But I remember why I don't drink this one. So. Not that it's not a well-made beer, and don't get me wrong, Tractor is a fine brewery, but in their iteration of the red ale, they use a lot of crystal malt, and it's got that glassy finish that just it doesn't dry out. It just kind of stays kind of, and not sticky, but just sweet for me. I like red ales to be dry. I don't drink a lot of them. I prefer, like, I've had rave reviews about La Cumbra's Red Riot IPA, which was a rye IPA. It was red. They've since changed their recipe. So I'm going to gulp this down and hit up this Red Seal Ale here real quick. But you can see I poured this a long time ago. I poured this when we first started the show, and it is retaining just a quarter of an inch of foam on the top of this beer, and it's lacing all the way down the glass. And I do believe, along with the roasted barley that they're using to get the color on the head, I think they've used some dextrin malt, which is maintaining the head on the beer. And you can definitely taste that as a kind of a slickness along with the crystal malt. So I don't, I can kind of smell that dextrin malt. I can kind of smell the glassiness. One of the cool things that I do like when I brew the beer, and I don't drink our red ale a whole lot except for just, tasting it for quality assurance. But when I mash it, I get a lot of leather notes in the mash tun. And I will lift the lid and just smell it because it smells awesome. It's just not a beer I prefer to drink. You know me, India Black, but
so I'm not getting hardly any head retention at all on mine.
Oh, this one's doing a phenomenal job. So that's why I think they've got some dextrin malts in there doing that.
Awesome. Well, cheers, guys.
Oh, I did want to say, our friend Dimitri, I don't think he's sticking around to watch. He just wanted to check in and say that he was excited about tonight. He grabbed a Great Lakes Red Ale, but then he saw there was a grand opening at the new Total Wine. And so he went down there and tasted a bunch of stuff. And then he's like, I'm done. I can't do this tonight. But then I guess Dimitri's really into hockey too. He also wrote, it's playoff time. Go Sharks. Well, sure. Go Sharks, Dimitri. Go Sharks.
Hey, Dimitri, friend me on Facebook and see my Sidney Crosby game controller that I posted on my Facebook page.
Everybody listening, go friend John back on Facebook.
Oh, just to see the Sidney Crosby game controller.
Okay. All right.
You guys are just jealous that Sidney Crosby was the cornerstone of my fantasy hockey team one year when I won the championship. So burn on you guys. Sid the Kid for life.
There you go.
I don't even watch hockey.
All right. Good job, guys. Good beers. Thank you, Patreons, for letting us explore these, because really, we have not had very many red ales on the show ever.
For a reason. Anyway.
Leave your hate at the door, John Ruyak.
I think these are perfectly enjoyable, and I don't know why John's such a hater.
Yeah.
John's a hater.
You know what? And I mean, John, you really did hit it though. Like, if you've got a friend that doesn't like craft beer, this and ambers are fantastic gateway.
I would say a blonde or a red ale,
a
well-made red ale, is a gateway to craft beer. Yeah, amber can be a little bit challenging.
Red ale, the bubblegum cigarettes of craft brewing.
Well put, Sullivan. Well put.
Red ale vape juice coming soon.
Oh.
Don't give Jewel any ideas.
Okay.
It's some 8-year-old. This is really enjoyable.
All right. Oh, look at that. We have something to announce. Guys.
What?
You know how we had the number 25 in the intro?
Yeah.
That's because this week, today, actually, we picked up our 25th Patreon, a new member of the growing clan. You may remember Jeff Solomon. What?
I'm just excited. I'm elated.
You remember if in our Ask Us Anything bonus episode, I said a special prize was going to go out to whoever was number 25. And so the mantle has been claimed by Mike O from Chicago. So Mike in Chicago, thank you very much for your $5 a month sign up. He is excited about getting the coconut porter beer recipe so he can brew that at home. He is excited about trying Jeff Solomon's award-winning guacamole. And you know what they say, folks? Like Mike, you should be like Mike and sign up to be a Patreon of the show. All right, go ahead, Solomon. You're like dying to get in some quibs here.
No, I was gonna sing along. You should be like Mike. It's Mike M. You said?
Oh, Mike O.
Why does it say Mike M in the notes?
I have no idea because my fat fingers mistyped.
What's up with your fingers?
They're all fat and gross looking.
Well, Mike O, thank you so much for joining the club. Number 25, you're like the Barry Bonds of patrons, which is a good thing. I know John hates everything, so he probably hates Barry Bonds too.
Well, I just don't want Mike O to roid out on us on some sort of, chat room thing.
Nah, it's cool just as long as like you tattoo WALD across your chiseled biceps or something.
All right, so Mike, we appreciate that. I have a special bonus for you for being number 25. You know what? Maybe we'll do something special for number 30.
Ooh.
I don't know what it'll be, but you folks should probably get signed up. Visit WeLikeDrinking.com/pledge to find out how you can get signed up. Oh my goodness. The pager is going off. There's big news coming across the ticker tape. It's Booze News. We discuss interesting, noteworthy, or 5 seconds of love. Jeff Solomon.
Man, you rock out so half-heartedly. It's awesome. So, it was neat that our friend Dimitri kind of checked into the live chat and then he took off. So you probably won't hear us giving him some props. This story right here came across the wire of the We Like Drinking Tavern on Facebook. Dimitri had posted something about this, and I thought that y'all would be interested in talking about it. This year marks the 175th anniversary of the founding of Empire Brewery in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is now known by a much more popular name. It's Pabst Blue Ribbon, PBR. And they've got some interesting little things that are coming up this year. One of the things of note is that PBR is going to be releasing a whiskey, and this whiskey in particular is fascinating because it's clear and it has been aged on oak for 5 seconds. 5 seconds. Because here's the thing, you could make this distilled spirit and there really aren't any laws. You could basically call anything vodka, and I know some people are going to chime up. No, you can call anything vodka. But when it comes to whiskey, there are rules, everybody, from the TTTTTTB. And one of the rules is it must be aged in oak. So PBR wanted to do this clear spirit and call it whiskey, and the TTB said, no, it must be aged in oak. And they asked, how long do we have to age it for? And the TTB says, I don't know. You just got to, it has to have some age. So PBR developed like this barrel system. They have this special barrel where as they distill this fine, clear spirit, it runs through a barrel whose flow rate has been fine-tuned. So every drop only has a kiss of oak for 5 seconds. So it's a whiskey by definition, and it's clear. By the way, they're not allowed to call it white whiskey. It's just whiskey. So I'm wondering, when you come across the PBR whiskey, would you try it? Would you buy it? And would you recommend it to a friend? John, you got some feelings. I gotta know.
Okay, so this takes me back a long ways. When I was no longer in college, but I had a friend who was attending university at Lehigh in Pennsylvania. And they had you go up on the hill, there's a bunch of fraternities, and at least 3 fraternities, their house beer was PBR. You could tell when you walked in because it smelled like PBR. The spilled beer, the carpet smelled like PBR. The vomit outside the door smelled like PBR. Yeah. So Pabst Blue Ribbon, it has a special place in the the history of drinking in America, particularly on college campuses.
The annals of history.
Yeah, the annals of history. But PBR has this thing. It's chewy, right? It's a little bit. It's not like Budweiser. It's not like Miller. It's got some heft to it, right? So, but how much heft do you get out of 5 seconds of contact with some oak? I don't get it. I mean, it I don't know. It seems like a rash reaction to trying to recapture lost beer sales to the ever-growing spirits market. We're in that generational shift. It happens every 14 years. Is that the did we talked about that before? It's like a 14-year cycle where beer and wine and spirits kind of follow these biorhythmic sine waves as far as popularity goes. Why put all that effort into it if you're just going to let it kiss the oak for fucking 5 seconds?
It's because the name matters. And I guess on some level, it's like, I mean, if we can really just get all like meta on this, I think about it from my perspective as an educator. Like, I really have a lot of issues with grades as really being like a true evaluation of learning and really a good tool to get people to understand, what have I learned and what am I figuring out? It's almost like, if we have these weird arbitrary rules set up, and it is really important for me to have the word whiskey on the label, and you're saying that I have this really efficient way that I can go through and get that brand name on there because it's going to sell more units, then I would do it. Just in the same respect that when a teacher gives a class options, all these different options you could do for this project, for this assignment, the kid's going to make the efficient choice, which is what's the easiest thing that I can do that can give me the exact same grade. And that's the thing when you see that there's a value in a name, in a brand there, and whiskey is a brand, why wouldn't you do that? You'll sell more units, and we're talking about it right now because of that. I think it's totally worth the effort to have a barrel with 2 bung holes.
Mm-hmm.
One on top, one on bottom.
Yeah.
It just flows.
Right.
You could just feed the barrel some Olestra and get the same result.
Yeah.
Or one of those bags of cheese puffs we got at the hockey tournament way back in the day.
You know what this feels like to me? This feels like somebody came up with this idea like 6 months ago, or 4 months ago. And they're like, yeah, we want to do this. And they're like, well, you have to age it on oak. They're like, we're not going to age anything for 4 years on oak. What's the least amount of time we got to do? And they're like, there is no time. And they're, somebody geniusly said, we can do it for 5 seconds. And they're like, TTB's like, I don't give a shit. It's just got to touch the oak. So I think this is something that they were trying to do quickly, and in their how can we get around the rules to make it quickly, they struck gold, because this is gonna, like you said, we're talking about it. I mean, this is a headline grabbing type of thing. Now you know, go ahead, John.
No. I want you to finish, because I just was thinking of something.
To your question, though, Jeff, I would definitely try it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would buy a bottle of it. I would hope that somebody else bought one or was in a bar and I could taste it. And as far as if I would recommend it, I mean, I'd have to try it and just see how it was. But
not word for word, but the folks at PBR said this is not a sipping whiskey, but it's great in cocktails.
Yeah. This is a shooting whiskey or mixer. All right, John, what were you going to say? We may have lost John.
I think we did. And so I think I might take this moment to also say, like, they could have played around with the timing, like how many seconds. Maybe they went with 5 seconds because I think there's like a band called 5 Seconds of Summer or something like that. Like maybe they want to do like some cross promotional thing. Or if that fell through, next year you do it for 7 seconds and it could be sold at like punk rock concerts. You could say, how long are you aging it for? And you go, 4 or 5 seconds, and then you're on tour with Kanye and Rihanna and Sir Paul McCartney. So
there you go.
Yeah, it could work.
There you go.
Sometimes age it for 60 minutes.
Oh, age it for 420 seconds, and you got a whole other avenue you can go down.
Oh, bro, I don't even get it.
All right. Anything else on that? What are your thoughts? Are you going to try it, Jeff Solomon?
Yeah, certainly if it's around. I'm sure it'll be at the same rock and roll parties that I go to where people have Fireball in a bag in a box.
Yes.
So I'm sure I'll see it, and certainly I will take a sip because I do want to know what it tastes like. And yeah, if I saw it, if it was not like cost prohibitive, I might buy it as a gag gift for a friend.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
And maybe it's delicious. Maybe it turns out jokes on me. It's great. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Excellent. Let's move on because we have an exciting thing to do here. Our first time. We need the big intro music. Here we go. Calling all Patreons. Patreons, we're going to give it up to you. I think we may have mentioned in the Patreon chat that as part of our Wines Till Sold Out deal, we get a $25 gift card to give away on the monthly. And so to make it easy on me primarily, we're not going to do like sign up drawings or enter to win or anything like that. If you're a Patreon, you are entered. That's how you win. So I am going to need to take a little time out here what do I have to do here? I have to share my screen. We're just going to share the whole thing.
Hells yeah.
Are you seeing this?
I am not. I'm seeing you. And I saw a text from John saying, my internet went out. Well, duh.
We figured that out. All right, let's try this again. So share screen. Share the entire screen. Share. There we go. I think that's
there. It is. Yeah.
All right. So here is the big wheel with all our Patreons that are eligible to win. Jeff Solomon. We're not on this list.
Is Mike O on there?
Mike
he sure
O
is. I see him.
I went ahead and added him as being the big number 25. All right, so let's give this big giant wheel a spin. And the winner is
Val!
Valerie Caruso. You are our first big winner of the Wines Till Sold Out $25 gift card. Congratulations, Valerie. I'll be getting in touch with you to find out how to get that card to you.
That is sweet. So you're saying by somebody being a card carrying patron of the show, you get entered into this drawing once a month?
Yes.
And by the way, we do also have like an extra special promo code for Wines Till Sold Out for our patrons as well, right?
For Patreons, yes, to get a little bit larger discount than the normal patron or normal listener.
If those of you listening at home were waiting for us to give you any more value, fucking get off your ass, dude. Get in here. Have some fun with us.
Awesome. Well,
we like drinking.com/pledge.
Or WTSO.com/WLD. All right. Well, we've lost John. We're tapping out of our red ales. We've given a bunch of stuff away. It's time to hit the lights because it's
last call. Last call.
That's right. It's time to clean house and lock the doors or break out your phones and help us out. You can follow us on the socials on Twitter at We Like Drinking 1. That's the number 1 on Instagram at We Like Drinking and on Facebook at We Like Drinking. But just skip that one. Don't even go there. If you're on Facebook, look to the tavern. That's where the action really is going down. You can get to our private group by visiting WeLikeDrinking.com/tavern to get yourself signed up. Also, if you've listened to the entire show and again, you're like, that's just podcast gold, man. Podcast gold. Consider leaving us a big fat 5-star review on Apple Podcast. You can visit WeLikeDrinking.com/, what is it? No. Yeah. No.
Edge.
I don't know what the hell it is. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Go to iTunes, search up We Like Drinking, give us a big fat 5-star review. Or if you're on your phone, like swipe up or down or just diddle around until you see the poke number 5. Jeff Solomon, we've talked about it. This will be like the 4th time asking for money tonight. But if the listeners still don't know how to give us a little bit of the coin, how can they do it?
Hey man, Mike O is figuring out the how much fun it is, and Val C is getting definitely a return on investment right now. Come join us as a patron of the show. Go ahead and visit WeLikeDrinking.com/pledge and find out more information about helping us out with a little Skrilla scratch every month. You can for as little as $1 a month, you've got access to a lot of fun stuff. So come meet up with us.
You can also find the show notes for this episode with all the links to the stories or mentions we had at WeLikeDrinking.com/podcast. Well, you know, we've got John back. Welcome back, John.
just in time for the end of the show.
I mean, it's your favorite part of the show. So, what is John's favorite part of the show, you may ask? It's the time where I get to say, okay, panel, let's take one last trip around this table and get some final thoughts before we shut off the lights. John Ruyak.
Well, real quick, two things. I wanted to give a shout out to a couple people. Nell, who used to be at the Vivac tasting room in Dixon. She's left and she's gone on to bigger things, but she's always a cool listener to the show. Hannah, who used to work at Lizard Tail, but she's now back in Sacramento and Woodland, California. Is that right? And but she'll hear this shout out like 3 weeks from now when she catches up on episodes. And Kevin, who is a regular listener to the show and also works at Total Wines, and he was at checkout and he's a regular at Lizard Tail, and he saw me in line and he was telling the people he was waiting on in front of me to listen to the podcast tonight. So thanks, Kevin.
That's awesome, Kevin.
So, but the other thing I was thinking, just real quick, is we had that we got the Chandra X radio telescope images of black holes.
Mm-hmm.
And all it did was confirm that Albert Einstein was right 115 years ago. I mean, the dude's been dead since 1954, and he's still being proved right 60 some odd years after he died. So just like that's pretty cool. I mean, can you imagine being that smart?
Nope. Jeff Sullivan.
Cut the music.
Oh, thank you.
I got about 4 or 5 seconds of aging, and we got 3 more days of drinking. I'm just trying to make it back home by Monday morning. I swear I wish somebody would tell me that my label of whiskey is approved. Bring it back.
I mean, before my internet went out, this, at the very worst this time, of course, I was just like, isn't that going to be like your tagline? Like, aged for 5 seconds. Give me one of them PBR whiskeys. Aged for 5 seconds.
And with that, I'll say thanks again for joining us at the We Like Drinking podcast,
where you'll never drink alone.
Thanks, viewers.
This whiskey's fantastic. How long was it aged for? 4 or 5 seconds.